there's nothing like seeing what you interpret as success as a norm. There's nothing like people who embrace you. You step outside your house and you're seeing people that are looking at you that expect a certain level of behavior from you. They have certain expectations from you. And growing up in that is a blessing, because those who do not grow up in that, I have the greatest admiration for someone who doesn't come up in that environment and still achieve, because that's against odds in my view. So it was, when I look at it now and I look back in it, it's like this. When I went to college, it wasn't like going to college. It was like going to grade 13. Didn't even think of it like going to college. I'm going to grade 13,
And the expectation was?
Expectation, you're going to college.
So, yeah.
So what did they my parents generated what? They generated a registered nurse, a high government administrative official, 2 lawyers, 2 adjunct educators, etc. This didn't come because we were so brilliant. Had nothing to do with that. But they put us on one heck of a path where it didn't even really consider there was something else not to do. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like that. This is what you do. This is where you go. And by the way, this is where you're going to end up, you see. Mm-hmm. So it was an interesting type of thing. I can never forget, and I won't call any names, but I was getting ready to graduate from Kentucky. Kentucky
Where'd you go
State.
To college? Kentucky.
Well, one of them was Kentucky State. They call it university now. It was Kentucky State College then. I remember I went to a counselor, and the counselor said, and I was asking the counselor, I'm getting ready to graduate. I'm trying to figure out what am I going to do now, So this is in my senior year, and I asked them, well, what do you think I'm set up to do? And they said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I'm not quite sure. So the counselor said, well, let me look at your background. They looked at my background and what I was studying and so forth, and saw I was in political science and a minor in sociology. And said, you could be a great sociologist. I mean, all the inspiring things, et cetera, et cetera. And I said to the counselor, I don't think so. I didn't know what I was going to be, but I didn't think so. So I began to do some research. And I said, now, where do I want to be? I said, well, I don't want to be working for anybody. I don't want to do that. I want to do my own thing. And I hadn't really prepared myself for like a business. And then I said, oh, this looks interesting. Law. So I tell this story all the time because it tickles me now when I look back. So I went and I started researching all the little law schools from Harvard all the way to Stanford to Columbia to Howard. And I said, well, I better put University of Louisville in there in case I don't have any money to do this. And I put them in there, and I got admitted to, I think I went for about 8 schools. I got admitted to about 5 of them. Mm-hmm. I don't know why Harvard didn't let me in, but anyway. But Columbia wanted me, and Stanford wanted me, and Howard wanted me, so it was all good. But nobody had any money for me. And that's how I ended up going to the University of Louisville, because I was going. So my point is that in that particular situation, in that particular environment, we knew that, wait a minute, we have to, in my group of people, we have to go as far as we can possibly go. Now, what is that? So there it is.
And did your parents go to college?
Both of them, no, neither one of my parents went to college. Both of them graduated from high school, which was interesting because a lot of parents didn't do that back in those days. But education was at the very top, and that was common in the community that I was in. No matter where I can think of the kids that I dealt with, all of them, for the most part, not all of them, but a great deal of them, if they didn't go and have a work, see, back in those days, you could get a job at a place like Philip Morris or Ford Motor Company or something. Those were great jobs. I mean, there was no shame in that game, right? But the fact of the matter is that the way the people in the communities I was involved in, they expect us to go to college. So it was our grade 13, I like to say. So that's the way it played out.
So it wasn't about, we went to college, so you have to go to college. We didn't go to
No.
college, but you have to go to college.
Right.
They knew times were changing.
Right. It was like that, and they had this attitude that you can't be, you can't be ordinary. You have to work hard to be twice as good. That was the attitude, and I think that was a general attitude, particularly in the black community, because of racism and all the barriers that had been set up historically and at that time, and a lot of them, to a great degree, the legacy of that still persists, quite frankly.